You might think you've heard ghost stories before. The kind that start in Japan. A pale girl crawling out of a well. A cursed VHS tape. A whisper behind a sliding paper door. But this story isn't from Japan. It comes from farther east. From the damp corridors of old Chinese night markets. From smoky backrooms of tea shops, where the old women play mahjong and tell you not to look over your shoulder. I first heard it from my grandmother. It was a summer evening. Cicadas were screaming outside the window. She was shelling peanuts into a blue porcelain bowl. Ping, ping, like tiny stones. Halfway through the story, she glanced toward the doorway, as if checking that nothing had followed the words into the room. In our folklore, she said softly, there's something called hua pai. Painted skin. A demon that wears human beauty like a silk robe. Perfect. Until it peels it off. She smiled at me. That I know you won't sleep smile. This one happened to a scholar, she said. Not a foolish boy. A man who should have known better. And that's how I first heard the tale of the painted skin. In a busy provincial city, tile roofs, willow-lined canals, vendors shouting over steam, lived a scholar named Wang. He wasn't rich. Ink stained his fingers. His robe was patched at the elbows. But people liked him. Every morning, he copied poems, until the light warmed the paper. Every afternoon, he taught a few children under a willow tree, and pretended not to see when they passed notes. On the way home, he stopped at the market for tofu, greens, a handful of chestnuts, if he felt extravagant. Scholar Wang called the fruit seller. Still no appetite for peaches. They bruise too fast, he answered. And the old man laughed, because Wang always said that, and always bought one anyway. Wang's wife, Madame Li, kept the household steady. She was practical, quiet, sharper than the kitchen knife, and twice as necessary. She noticed things. Missing buttons. A cracked teacup. Words people didn't say out loud. Their courtyard was small but orderly. A stone basin for washing. A clump of chrysanthemums that bloomed later than they should. Life wasn't grand. It was peaceful. Until it wasn't. One morning, the mist sat low over the fields, brushing Wang's ankles like cold silk. On the roadside, near the stone steps, he saw a figure, a young woman, huddled and still. Her robe was torn. Her hair hung in dark knots. When she looked up, he caught his breath. Skin pale as polished pale jade. Eyes like wet ink. A mouth that trembled, as if holding back a sob. Please, she whispered. Help me. She said. She'd escaped from bandits. Her family. Gone. She had nowhere to go. In those days, you didn't leave a person like that on the road. But maybe it wasn't just duty. Wang offered his cloak, his arm, his certainty. He brought her home. Madame Li opened the gate and took it all in. The ragged robe, the beautiful face, the way her husband's voice had gone careful and warm. For a few days, Wang said. Until we find a place for her. Madame Li nodded. She was not unkind. She found an old robe, heated water, combed the girl's hair with gentle, practical strokes. By the second day, the girl looked different. By the third, she was radiant. She moved like water. She poured tea. As if every cup had a soul. When she recited a couplet, her voice made the room feel smaller, more intimate, as if the words had weight, and the air bent to let them pass. Wang began spending less time in his study. He sat with her in the courtyard to watch the moon. He asked about favorite poems. He laughed at small things. Madame Li said little. But she started lighting incense in the mornings. The bitter kind, that doesn't smell like comfort, only like warning. In the street, women whispered the word XNG, wake up. Inside, No one said anything unkind. Silence can be very polite. The first body was found by a cousin. A strong man in his 30s, who didn't wake for breakfast. No bruise. No cut. Just still. When the doctor pressed his fingers to the chest, his eyes changed. He said, there was nothing to be done. He didn't say why. There was nothing left to be done. The second man was a shopkeeper, who always shorted children on candy by exactly 1 bean. The third, a clerk, who never missed the evening drum. By the fourth, doors were barred before sundown. Taoist talismans went up over lintels, in smears of cinnabar. The market closed early, and the tofu lady muttered, something is eating the night. Wang kept walking the same route home. But he grew tired. His hands shook pouring tea. He'd wake from dreams. Long fingers stroking his chest, cold breath in his ear. A weight settling over his ribs, like wet cloth. Madame Li noticed purple shadows beneath his eyes. She put more ginger in the soup. He smiled, and said it wasn't necessary. The girl smiled too, slow and secret. As if she and Wang shared a joke, no one else could hear. It rained. For 3 days. The house smelled like damp wood and ink. On the 4th morning, a dead sparrow lay on the threshold, its chest hollowed, and neat as a spoonful. Madame Li swept it away, without a word. That night, she locked the gate herself, and slid the bolt with a sound that felt like a line being drawn. A neighbor claimed he'd seen the girl walking past midnight, her robe perfectly dry. Another swore the wind didn't touch her hair. When the fruit seller teased Wang about the beautiful guest, the girl blushed exactly the way a well-bred girl is trained to blush. Not too little, not too much, and somehow that was worse than anything. Wang laughed it off. But when he bent to tie his sandal, he had to sit down first. He told himself it was the weather. Madame Li didn't tell herself anything. She watched. There is a moment in every house when the nighttime is a little too quiet. When the wood stops creaking and the dog in the next courtyard falls silent, and you can hear your own breath counting seconds. That was the moment. Madame Li rose. She moved like someone who had practiced moving quietly. Down the hall. Past the hanging lantern, dark and cool. The girl's door was open a finger width. The bed was empty. Madame Li followed the soft whisper of bare feet to the storage room behind the house. The one that smelled of old rice and last year's peaches. The door creaked. She stepped close and looked through the slightest slice of space. Inside, the girl reached up, took hold of her own face, as if it were a scarf, and peeled it away. It came off in one smooth sheet. Underneath, skin black and slick, stretched over a skull that didn't fit quite right. Lidless eyes. Teeth too white, and too many. A tongue, like a wet ribbon uncoiling. The beautiful face, the one that poured tea and recited poems, hung on a wooden peg by the door. The way a farmer might hang his hat. Madame Li did not scream. Her breath became a stone. She swallowed and carried. She slipped back down the corridor. She didn't run. People who run trip on the truth. At dawn, Wang would be dead. She tried everything first. Rice wine held to his lips. Hot towels over his chest. Her own hands pressed flat. As if warmth could be pushed back into him. When the light finally came, Wang was cold. His chest. Too still. No mark. No blood. Only a silence, where a rhythm had been. Madame Li put on her outside shoes, and went looking for help. She went to the temple, with the soot-black eaves, and the monk, who spoke like a bell. He lowered his eyes. He said prayers would bring peace. She went to the priest, on the corner, who sold charms from a tin box. He counted coins instead of blessings. Finally, she found an old Taoist in a patched robe eating noodles beside a stack of firewood. His hair was white and disobedient. His eyes were a silvery grey that made you think of rivers in winter. He listened without interrupting. When she was done, he wiped his chopsticks carefully and said, "Show me." He brought nothing but a crooked staff and a small gourd at his belt. When he stepped into the courtyard, the wind seemed to decide suddenly to cross it. Madame Li led him to the body. The Taoist Saturday. He closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked like someone remembering a song from long ago. Then he opened them and said, very casually, "You can come out now." Nothing moved. He leaned his staff against the wall as if chatting with an old acquaintance. "You've worn that face nicely," he said to the empty air. "But you're careless. Careless things leave crumbs." A shadow gathered where there hadn't been one. The room cooled. The demon stepped into view. Not hiding behind silk anymore. The face was half on, half off. The edges didn't line up. Claws gleamed with something that wasn't quite wet. It smiled. The smile was wrong. "You're late," it said. Its voice sounded like dry leaves dragged over stone. "The heart is already mine." The Taoist considered this like a man considering soup. He said. "But you're hungry again, aren't you? That's the trouble with stealing what should beat. It never fills you." The demon's eyes flattened. Around them, the light wavered, as if the room were underwater. It changed. Skin smoothed. A new face slid into place. Now it looked like Madame Li. Same eyes. Same mouth, only brighter. Kinder. The version a man would dream of when he was tired and wanted to be forgiven. "Master Wang," the voice purred, turning toward the bed. "Wake for me." The Taoist flicked his staff. The illusion tore like paper. He sighed. "Tricks are for children." The demon hissed and became a weeping child, thin and small. Hands outstretched. "Mother," it sobbed. In a voice that snagged something in the ribs. Madame Li's hands clenched. The Taoist did not look at her. "Enough," he said. "A mask is a mask, no matter how well painted." The demon's smile returned. Wider now, teeth brighter. It tilted its head, listening to a rhythm only it could hear. "Do you hear it?" it whispered. "His heart, still calling to me." The Taoist's eyes went colder. He stood. "Come out," he said, and his voice was iron. "All the way." The demon swelled, beauty sliding off like a shawl. What was underneath was not meant for day. The room smelled like old copper and wet stone. "Last chance," said the Taoist. "Leave what isn't yours." The demon laughed. It sounded like something breaking. "Take it then," it whispered. The Taoist lifted his staff. He spoke a line that curled in the air like smoke. The window slammed open. A gust of wind, a clatter of talismans, the chrysanthemums bowing all at once. The demon lunged. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to 3 points. The old man's staff, the hook by the door, the face, that lovely, borrowed face. Swaying gently, the Taoist struck. Not at the demon's claws. Not at its teeth. At the skin. The painted face split, with a sound like silk tearing. Cracks veined across the mask. Hairline at first, then racing, spider webbing, opening. The demon shrieked a thin, high, human sound that made the hair on Madame Li's arms lift. It reached for the face that was no longer a face, fingers scrabbling on air. The Taoist struck again. The mask shattered into ash. The demon folded in on itself, all its borrowed edges collapsing. It blew apart, like smoke snatched by wind. Silence. Then, a gasp. Wang's chest rose. Fell. Rose again. He was alive. Days became weeks. Wang walked the courtyard, like a man learning his own body again. He read for an hour, then 2. Sometimes, he stopped mid-poem and touched his sternum, like someone checking a locked door. He rarely spoke of the girl. When neighbors asked, he said there had been a sickness, and it had passed. People nodded. They were happy, for something simple to believe. Madame Li did not correct them. She hung a new charm over the lintel, and watered the chrysanthemums, and slept with one hand near her husband's heartbeat. The Taoist left as he'd come, on foot, with a patched robe, and a staff that looked ordinary again. Before he went, Madame Li pressed a little bundle of chestnuts, and dried persimmon into his hands. He bowed. "Keep your doors open," he said. "And your eyes." She walked him to the gate. He paused, considering the street. "Painted things are patient," he said. "They learn the shape of a want and wear it." Then he smiled, like someone who had made a very old joke, and kept walking. Time does its work. Wang returned to his routine. Ink, students, market. He nodded to the fruit seller. He bought the peach. He always claimed bruised too fast. He did not linger on strangers' faces. But once, only once. He turned a corner, and saw a woman standing very still, in the shade of a doorway. Her robe was plain. Her face was beautiful in a way that didn't ask for anything. Wang's heartbeat tripped, one skipped note. Nothing more. He walked on. That night, the wind scratched at the shutters, like a beggar with long nails. Wang woke, hand over his chest, counting. He told himself he was being foolish. In the alley behind the house, something tapped the gate. 3 gentle knocks, spaced like a polite request. No one opened it. The tapping did not repeat. In the morning, under the eaves by the storage room, Madame Li found a thin smear of color along the wood. A faint crescent of powder, the exact shade of human skin when it's been ground too fine. She washed it away with salt water. She didn't mention it to Wang. The chrysanthemums bloomed late. Again a little too late. Beauty can be painted. Truth cannot be worn like a mask. Thank you for listening to Moonlight Whispers, Beyond the Veil. If you enjoyed this story, share it with a friend. Or better yet, don't. Let them find it, the way Wang found her. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and don't trust every beautiful face.